are talking about the anthology movie Zombie World 2. That is Zombie World, not Zombie Land. So Zombie World was a 2015 anthology movie, obviously all about vampires. Actually, of course it wasn't. It was about zombies. And here we have a sequel that contains 5 short films, all with a kind of a zombie theme that are not connected, but you'd be thinking some of them are. And we'll discuss. So the original Zombie World movie was probably most notable for some very over-the-top shorts. In particular, there was one where we had a kind of a Jesus sort of character who was, you know, kicking ass of all loads of kind of zombies. It was absolutely bonkers and kind of quite fun. And there was a couple of other ones that were very kind of OTT. This second collection of zombie films is a little bit more muted, a little bit more standard affair, if you know what I mean. So we'll go through them. There's 5. So the first one is called Apocalypse Marathon, and it essentially sort of focuses on this woman as she essentially is, well, running away from zombies basically, and it kind of starts off in a sort of hospital, an area where she's kind of getting you know, news clips, etc. It very much feels like a kind of an add-on to something like 28 Days Later or something like that. It's well shot, the zombies look good, and is a kind of a more serious take. I would say there's nothing spectacular about it. It is just one woman trying to get away from zombies. As is the second film called Perish, which is about a guy who is kind of trapped in this particular building. Again, it's kind of standard affair, really. I will say these 2 particular shorts do seem like they're going to take place in the same universe, so to speak, and maybe to the third one, the last movie as well. So maybe 3 of these you could say you would feel like they would take place, but there's 2 that don't. Anyway, this one, you've got this guy, and he kind of has a bit of kind of isolation, trying to get food, water, etc. And there is obviously, you know, he's kind of going a little bit kind of like bonkers, obviously getting sort of trapped in this house. Again, the zombie effects are pretty good. It's quite well made film. Feels like it has, you know, fairly kind of good production kind of behind it. But the story doesn't really do anything spectacular. It's just this guy getting kind of trapped by zombies. There is quite one fun scene where he kind of fights this naked woman zombie who's, you know, fairly fresh, shall we say. So in another kind of instance, that might be a different kind of situation going on there, but obviously she's a zombie, although she really doesn't look like it, if that makes sense. But that's really the only thing that kind of stands out of this one. Then we have the third movie, which is the quirky one. This one's called Disengaged, and this was obviously, you think, okay, clearly these films aren't sort of set in the same universe, and they're just a bunch of kind of shorts that have been bundled together. And this one is a little different. It treats the zombie sort of story a little differently. Instead of kind of roaming flesh punches, everyone's kind of almost frozen in place and seem to be kind of just rotting. There's this one woman who seems to be kind of normal and sort of ultimately tries to kind of take care of her neighbourhood, who these people who are zombies, just kind of standing still forever, and they're kind of starting to decompose and stuff. And she's got, you know, her partner is one of these guys, and there's like a little girl, etc. It's a little weird. You don't really know what's going on and why things are happening. It almost seems like there's some sort of magical curse that's happened, but we never really know. But I've got to say, the disappointing thing with this one is it kind of just ends on a very much a typical zombie note. It doesn't try. The actual ending of this sort of short film isn't clever at all. It just kind of ends up being like a typical kind of zombie film, which kind of betrays the rest of it. So, you know, I wasn't too fast with that one, to be honest with you. And then we come to The Working Dead, which is a Spanish movie. And this one is a homage, shall we say, to Shaun of the Dead. There's a comedy one. It's the shortest one, and I would say the weakest one, because it's just trying too hard to be a Shaun of the Dead style kind of like rip-off. I mean, there's some shots that sing right out of it, and it's just basically this kind of you know, this office building that's it's kind of like people are just dropping dead and kind of turning into zombies, and we have these sort of 2 guys that get suited up very much in the style of Shaun of the Dead to try and kind of fight them off. The worst one, if you ask me, it's not a homage, it's just a blatant kind of like truncated version of that film. So didn't work for me, that one. However, the best one, I would say, of this entire lot is the final one, which is a Mexican movie. And this is a, obviously in Spanish language. It is probably the longest out of all of them, and probably worth watching for this movie alone. But the first two are quite good as well, and the third one's even watchable, but it's just a bit weird, that's all. But this one is legitimately pretty good, and it's shot in black and white, and there's a real harrowing kind of zombie film, and it's called, well, the English translation I believe is Devastation, but it's Devacación, or whatever the Spanish pronunciation is of that, but basically Devastation. And it's a kind of, like I said, a Mad Max kind of post-apocalyptic feel, but it's really kind of has these kind of these great kind of like washed out sort of landscapes, these deserty landscapes, and obviously we're dealing with a very brutal kind of world now, where we have not just zombies but other humans who seem to be kind of ruling things. Again, this is what it kind of feels a little bit like Walking Dead. I don't know if the black and white was necessary, if you ask me. I actually think if they wanted to do it, it may have been better in a kind of like a kind of a washed out sort of yellowy filter, really, because it's a desert. I would have felt it would have benefited from having that kind of sun bleached look. So I don't know if black and white was necessarily the right way to go. And this one is actually pretty brutal and quite gory. And because it's in black and white, obviously it lessens the impact a little bit, because you're not sort of seeing the red of the blood and stuff like that. Maybe it's possibly converted into black and white because of that. I don't know. But this one is certainly the most in-depth story, sort of following this kind of this woman and her basically her situation she sort of gets in, and it's, you know, it's got the most sort of plot to it, and the kind of like I guess the most interesting resolution to the actual movie itself, one where it's just not just what you'd expect, I suppose. And it's very well made. The first two I would say were well made, but just not particularly exciting stories. This one, it really is worth a watch. So if anything worked, you know, you might be able to find this last one on kind of on YouTube, I don't know. But the last one is definitely worth a watch, and obviously the people involved here, I would say, definitely would be worth keeping an eye on. I think this is the most recent out of the 5 films as well. So yeah, that was definitely the best one. But overall, as a package, two are pretty good. I think 2 are below average, and one was excellent. So overall, I'll give this movie a 6 out of 10 as a kind of combined package. If you are a zombie fan, I feel there is stuff to enjoy here. There's just not a lot of originality, really, with the exception of the 3rd and the 5th one. And the 3rd one, I don't think maybe is original, but doesn't know what to do with it. But the last one is the one to watch. 6 out of 10. Anyway, have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to you next time. Bye for now.